to build something smarter than before. Not just points, it's aligned to clear. Better leads, better teams right here. It's Lead Score Monday, you know the vibe. Fixing what's broken, bringing it to life. Showdowns, labs, and quick fix flair. Casey's in the hot seat, see you there.
On the road to better scores, let's build what actually opens the door. On the road to better scores, let's build what actually opens the door.
Hello and welcome back to another session of Lead Score Monday working sessions. This is Monday, January 19th. I did not have any meetings today, so I thought, what better than to chat through some lead scoring problems, solutions, just some real life lead scoring things I've been working on this week, and that's what we're working on today. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in, whether this is whether you're watching this live or recorded. Those are the words I'm trying to say. So first things first, talking today about the lead scoring feedback loop. And a question I get asked all the time is like, how often should we be revisiting scores? How often should we be reviewing them and things like that? I think my ideal world would be these scores are in constant rotation of being reviewed. And I think there is and can be a really simple way of doing that by just truly having your sales team mark leads that come into them as good, bad, or just okay. And that's it. If your sales team is able to just mark leads as good, bad, or okay, then you have all the information you need to take that to Breeze if you're using HubSpot or any AI tool and just kind of start to get a feel for what the good leads look like and what the bad leads look like and what's happening. So that is where I would ideally like things to be. However, that's not where most companies are. And if you are like most companies, then I would recommend trying to visit these on a quarterly. If it can't be quarterly, twice a year, taking a look at high scoring leads, low scoring leads, and making sure that the criteria makes sense. Now, who should we be asking this to? This is really important that it should truly be the people who are receiving the leads. So if leads are getting this lead score, most lead scores are set up for the marketing team to send to sales. The sales team should be the one reviewing these leads, saying these are good, bad. The difference, though, is asking why. I think a lot of marketing teams are like, I don't want to ask. They're going to say they're all bad. Okay, well, that's fine. Why? Because if I don't know why these leads are bad, then I can't really do much with that information. And I think that's really what it kind of boils down to. I did want to show you, I worked on this a couple months ago. I sent a survey. I used Google's survey, and I sent this out asking them to review 5 leads, sharing their gut reactions. Should take 5 to 10 minutes. And I did not share the scoring logic, intentionally did not. I didn't want and I shared this with the sales reps who would be receiving these leads. In this case, they are BDRs. I did not want them to know why they were scored good or bad, because I thought that might cloud their judgment of, whether they fit into the not arbitrary, but into the boxes that we meant for them to. So yeah, this is just a Google survey. And I have a link to the HubSpot contact record. And then I also have a little summary of their engagement. So no recent activities. And then I had what I recommended which was re-engagement campaign. The vision of this would be, this is kind of similar to what maybe the lead notification would look like. So we're saying, here's a lead that was, scored. They don't have any recent activity. Can you help us with a re-engagement campaign for this person? Based on this information, first and foremost, would they reach out to that person? How excited would they be? What would their approach for the follow-up be? And then what stood out? And I asked that about 5 different people: no recent activities, re-engagement. This lead was showing research behavior, not a hand raiser. Suggestion is to contact and qualify. And then what was the last? No, there's 2 I skipped on. Same. Quality fit, then pursue if aligned, qualify, fit, and then see. And then this last one, active, hand raiser, qualify, or potentially pass if they're not qualified. And then I added this overall feedback. What did you look for first when evaluating a lead? What information was missing that would have helped your evaluation? Other thoughts about evaluating these leads or the current framework. So the purpose of these feedback questions are just to help us get better with how we're communicating things. One thing to keep in mind when evaluating feedback in these settings is that it does not only matter, whether the leads are good or bad is important, but also are we giving, in this case, the BDRs enough information when we're passing off those leads to say if they are good or bad. And that's often not the case. Oftentimes that's just as big of a deal, I guess, is what I'm trying to communicate, is that it's sometimes not that the leads are bad, it's that the way that we're communicating those leads is not sufficient for our teams. And if they're not, then that's, that could be a problem. So I looked at the feedback from this team. I'm trying to see if I could do this in a way that makes sense, but I don't think I can. Let's see. Yeah, I'm trying to get this in the feedback in a way that's not totally showing everything. But that's not really working for me. So instead, what I'll do is I'll just kind of talk through. Okay, there we go. This might be working. All right. Oh, except why is it scrolling with me? It's not helpful. I digress. So if I'll just talk through some of the feedback that I got, that might be easier. So in this case, 2 of the BDRs followed up with me and filled out the survey. There was mixed results on whether or not they would reach out to some of these people. Some of them yes, some of them no. I also found it to be interesting, in some of the, I know whether they're medium, low intent, hot, all of those things. But I did want to know what they would think, the BDRs in this case. In this one of these, what stood out about Leonard, and Leonard's in one of our preferred industries. He downloaded our ebook, so there's light intent, not fully cold, good outbound target. And then someone else said title and 2 clicks on marketing emails. Interesting to me that somebody said something about downloading the ebook and the other person talked about marketing email engagement. Sometimes those are just filters. You just don't know what people are filtering theirs on. There were others that there were mixed reviews on whether or not to engage. One of the people was an ex-customer. And so there was some like argument on like because they're an ex-customer who should reach out to them, which is an internal like it just depends on the organization, how those are they going to be used, especially if a past customer kind of reaches back out or shows some more engagement. Should that go to their original rep, or not? Do, do, and similar, there were some closed lost ones as well in a similar instance. All right, and then there was one lead, I'm seeing, lead intent on this lead is higher, main delay was CEO change in budget revisions. I'd call first and set manual follow-up task. If there's no response, add prior interest sequence and Zoom info air coverage. Um, hmm. A form submission with no follow-up tasks seems like a good lead, but not sure how, a different territory deals with them. So they would there's some territory feedback and things like that. All right. And then what did you look at first when evaluating leads? One of the respondents said they verified contact details and confirm it's the ideal fit industry, then check job title and Zoom info data to gauge the size of the account. The other person looked at activities and lead sources. That's interesting because one person looked kind of more at fit data and the other person looked more at activities. No no right or wrong way there. Just interesting that kind of even within the same company, there's differences there. What information was missing that would have helped you evaluate? Closed loss notes. Sometimes these deals are closed, but no future tasks are set to reprospect to them. For outbound specifically, it would help to see where the AEs left off. Things like who to reach, when, and what was the challenge. If Salesforce data notes or outcomes were also displayed in HubSpot, current client or not. So looking at some like visibility. And then other thoughts on evaluating. There are many leads that slip through the cracks where outbound can pick things up. I feel as if there needs to be some sort of automated allocation of leads where no activity is happening. So interesting to hear like the feedback. What will I do with this? In this case, there's only 2 responses, which is not a ton of feedback really. I originally worked with this lead scoring in Claude. So my first what I'm leaning towards doing first is to find that conversation. Okay. Let me stop. That's not uploading for some reason. Oh, I'm not even sharing. So what I think I'll do is I'm going to upload the feedback to that same Claude project where I had done the work to originally build this out. And then I will, from there, ask Claude what kind of adjustments. I will say based on the feedback that I heard, it was less so that the scores themselves needed to really be adjusted and more there was like integration concerns with specifically with Salesforce. There maybe is some work to be done on segmentation inside of HubSpot, like, and are we properly segmenting current customers and ex-customers, deals? That can be tricky in many organizations to truly get that to work. It's always amazing to me when I go into a portal and how challenging it can be to find a list of the current customers. It feels like something that should be really straightforward and easy, but so often it's really not. And so that is often something we're like up against when we're doing lead scoring projects, because we want our we want our projects to align with the with current customers, but also exclude current customers and everything like that. So a lot of times the data can really impact the end result. Another thing worth calling out is that I can be biased. I am only a human, and sometimes what, especially in these projects where like I built the score, I do have a sense of ownership of the score, and it can be hard for me to see past that sometimes. So I think it's also really important to get Claude's or an AI tool's feedback on the feedback so that you're being true and honest. So I'm going to send this over to Claude, this feedback. I'm going to say, I built a score for my client. Their BDRs reviewed some contacts based on the scores, and this was their feedback. What changes should I consider? All right, and I can go ahead and share. Based on this analysis, I'll identify, please run go ahead. I also have the scoring documentation. I ended up opening this in a different Claude. So I'm wondering or suggesting that probably sending that to Claude would be helpful as well. Here is the scoring framework. Ideally, I would be doing this in the Claude where I originally built it, but I'm struggling with that at this moment. So we're gonna adapt and evolve. But I can see that it's kind of like reviewing what happened, closed law status and things. I might even say the score is built in HubSpot. I also worked with with Breeze on this. So that's something you can look at too, is speaking to Breeze about this. And sometimes what I do is I'll have Claude or ChatGPT write notes for Breeze. I'll say, thanks, I'm going to take this into Breeze so they can look at the data in more details. Can you help show based on what Breeze can you help tell Breeze what to do and write a prompt for Breeze to help with this? But I think sharing this through a Google form was really helpful. I think it's important that you ask a combination of like selection questions. I mean, it's at the end of the day, these scores are like NPS surveys in many ways. Like, how satisfied are you with the score and the quality of the leads that are getting passed to you? I think a lot of times marketing and even leadership really wants to be involved in these conversations. And not to say that they should never be, but I think it is really important that the people receiving the leads kind of lead these feedback sessions, and we kind of start with that as the hypothesis. It is interesting. So I'll share. So one thing that's interesting is they want Claude wants a bigger sample size, which is fine. I think it's a challenge to figure out like what the right balance is. So originally I tried to grab some good leads, some not so good leads, and see kind of what was happening. But it's interesting to me that the immediate implementation priorities at Salesforce notes and the importance of clarifying with more information, like getting a bigger testing pool, is part of what Claude is recommending. So, all of this to say, give feedback on your scores early and often. I like to launch a score and then get feedback pretty quickly, definitely within the first month, and make adjustments. I do think once your score is established, you don't necessarily need to be changing and adjusting and getting feedback for your score every month. I think that's an unrealistic expectation. But I think once a quarter, or if once a quarter is not possible, twice a year, it's important to just kind of take a look and evaluate what's working and what's not. All right. I hope everybody has a good rest of their day, and I will talk to you soon.